Hey, we got a great story today. What if you were a DJ and you were loving your job, but it just wasn't paying and didn't have the career opportunities that you'd like, the financial support that you needed for your family? So you get into sales, but you start at the bottom like we all do, and you work your way up, and then you become good at it, even great at it. That's the story we got for you today. John's joining us. I love his story. We met on LinkedIn through my post looking for great salespeople. And I'm inviting you, members of the studio audience, to come on the show. If you've got a particular story you'd like to share about sales, a skill, a technique, a lesson that you learned, mistakes that you made, those are always popular. Hey, I've made my whole career off of it. Sharing my mistakes with you, my little friends out there in iTunes land. Let's get into the interview. Before we do, make sure you're checking out covideo.com. Video email is the way to break through. Maybe on the first one, definitely once you get to know people. They want to hear from you. I got a video email this week from somebody trying to sell me something. Now, I didn't know them, so it was kind of like spam, but they enticed me. I watched it. It wasn't a great match, but I learned about them. And I kept it aside. Maybe I want to go that route eventually. Right now, no. But they did connect with me. I felt a very personal message when they use your name. They say your name versus just typing your name. When they are showing you your website, that's a little trick I thought was pretty clever. They had no reason to show me my website, but why they do it? Because it showed that they cared about me. It got my attention. I saw my own website. Hey, what are you doing on my website? So that's a little trick, a little way to engage people. Video email's the way to go today. That and pipedrive.com with the Brutal Truth coupon code, all one word, you get 60 days free trial. You got to check it out. We all need our own personal CRM. Maybe we won't be at the same company the rest of our lives. And people say, well, I'll have my LinkedIn network, except for the emails and the phone numbers and the history, you will. And LinkedIn puts us in jail once in a while if they think we're shady or something. Or who knows? LinkedIn could get sold again to somebody else, or they change the rules. Or whatever. We got to have control over our contacts, over our network, and be able to connect with people, whether we're on our smartphones or on our laptops or on the cloud, wherever we are. So check out pipedrive.com. Now, at the very end, I'll give you all an update on the courses. Big progress is being made, and now is the time. Guess what? Time waits for none of us, and this is the time to make the money. Like they used to say, time to make the donuts, it's time to make the money. And I'm going to talk about how. Here we go. Hey, John, welcome to the show. As a way of getting started, tell us about yourself.
Hey, Brian. Well, thank you very much. It's exciting to be with you. And the fact is, I'm a kind of an entertainer. I was born with a God-given voice. My parents locked me up in Vermont in the middle of nowhere for my summer times. I didn't have any TV, no radio, and we just developed a personality of fun and entertainment. And then I spent a good 20 years in the real estate world. So I feel like there's a way to help. And the real estate world was so much fun and challenging. But the entertainment part of me, somehow we combine that. Yeah. And the fact of the matter is, everyone's talking about kindness and love. And your videos are just, they're fun, but they really hit some bones. You know, they really dive deep on folks that really want to pay attention. So, my history is real estate and radio for the most part.
And when you say real estate, you weren't selling real estate, you were selling to realtors, right? Is that
correct?
Yeah.
That's one of those FOMOs where you just look back on your life, a little bit of a regret, because I'm all over the country. I could say, just referrals alone, some of the business that I could have gathered up. But yeah, I never got the license. I actually thought about a month and a half ago, my wife talked about maybe diving in and finally doing it, since I have all this stuff up here that I could probably be very successful. But we know that the real estate folks work extremely hard on their weekends. And with my kids, I just never pulled that switch. So,
and what exactly were you doing for realtors?
Software for the most part. There's the big engine of Realtor.com came into play, and I was a radio guy. My son was born with some complications, and Dad had to get a real job. So,
go figure.
Well, that's not knocking radio. Please note, you can succeed. I was actually climbing the ladder, going from small market to medium market, and then Jordan was born and kind of stopped everything. But it's all for God's plan in a way. But I just figure like there's something to be said for taking these tangents, the Arthur Miller death of a salesman type thing. You can't control them, But if you embrace them and just realize that's part of your path, go for it. So
Yeah.
Dad knew he had to sell to make money to provide. Fairfield County, Connecticut, radio guy ain't going to do it. So my wife basically said, time for you to stay home with the baby. I'll stay to work. So I did for about 11 months. I was Mr. Mom, which was most amazing time in a way. Every single adjective describes it, quite frankly. Beautiful, wonderful, challenging. But yeah, it was a great thing to have, to be a dad, to get to stay home. And then I could tell it was getting pretty tense for my wife. And I got a job working for Realtor.com. And that was the beginning of my sales world.
Cool. And what was that transition like, going from radio to selling? Was that
Well, that's
hard?
a great question. You think about it, it's pretty much when you're on air, you're selling yourself, you're selling the advertisers, you're selling the music. Yeah. So it wasn't a big change, but the idea of taking someone's credit card, that was the only change, where you all of a sudden realize that you better bring value, you better be bringing a product of value, and you combine those two, you get passion behind it. I sold my butt off. I did extremely well.
And what was your method? Was it phone? Was it drop by? Was it networking? All of that? Or
well, think about when the late 90s, when the internet was taking over industries. It was either, oh, that internet thing, I'm not worried about it, or it was, oh my God, what am I going to do? So it was fun to be a part of that and help them go through it. Nothing's changed. They're still scared of technology. They're still saying, oh, I just can't do that. But I'm like, well, when the internet came in 20 plus years ago, were you making excuses then? And for the last 5 years, I've gotten so frustrated with I look at the CRMs, you've joked about them. I say CRM stand for can't recoup money spent. Yeah. And it's really, I say that tongue in cheek. Yeah. I say it to my brokers. They're like, yeah, you're right. I sold it to them. So I had that, not guilt, but a little bit of, gosh, we got to figure this out. If you look for ROI and stuff, how can you have any ROI if you don't get any sort of adoption?
Right.
And then, you may have mentioned something similar to this. I think adoption, first of all, has to be clearly defined, or you can even begin to try to figure out do we really have adoption? And they talk about these numbers of 40, 50, 60%. I said, well, how are you talking to the chief marketing officer, the chief tech, all the guys, CTO, put them all into a room, they'll all have the same answer. But you separate them and interview them individually, they're all going to have different answers based on P&L, based on CGOs, as I like to say. Where they control that and say, well, this is what adoption is. We're not getting that. So then the friction happens and the ball falls out. It just doesn't ever happen. So I feel that that return on investment, I cannot focus on selling CRMs anymore. My watch can tell me to call you in a couple weeks. Yeah. My watch can tell me not to be in an airport when I'm talking to Brian. It's like, it's gotten so complicated for technology vendors, I think, to wrangle up that CRM. So, and Realtor.com in that beginning wasn't even CRM. It was just embracing the internet. And then Realtor.com also had a product called Top Producer, which is a CRM software for real estate. Amazing, but really complicated. Yeah. So the agent would buy it because Sally bought it, Bob bought it, I'm going to get it too. And then she has it sit in a shrink wrap for 2 years before she even put it in the computer. So it shows that there's going to be that friction, that wall.
Yeah, I think everybody wants the benefit, but the investment and time and learning and data entry, and I'm as guilty as anybody.
Well, the only way to make a CRM work is how much you feed, how much you feedback, right?
Yeah.
But again, that they say, well, they're using it. Well, what do you mean they're using it? What are they doing? Do you know exactly when you say, well, they log in and load some contacts and they did some stuff over there and they made a flyer? Well, going back to my plate, the definition of adoption is something that the words used really easily, but it's really hard to understand.
Yeah. And what worked for you to make you, you had a lot of success, I take it, right?
Yeah, well, to be fair to anyone that was selling software to realtors in the late 90s, they were just buying it because they knew they had to. And the boss was saying, we're on that Realtor.com thing, you better do it too. And they weren't telling Sally agent, look, Sally, if you don't have listings, you're not going to get any activity on Realtor.com. But I was the guy that was saying that. Yeah. So I would sell to the buyer's agents that would make sure saying, you guys realize you're probably not going to get a list. I know, I just want to make sure I'm there if I do get a listing. So
and realtors, they are, commission salespeople. I don't think anyone grows up and says, I want to be a realtor. I think people fall into it or slide into it.
Family sometimes they do, right? When
maybe, yeah, that's true.
Right?
Yeah. So they're probably a pretty tough crowd to sell to. Is that true? Or
I think that's fair. I say it's following the masses. So if you go to an office meeting and they say it starts at 9:00, they don't start till 9:15. You would be floored by the behavior in these real estate offices. I'm not knocking them. It's just the reality of hurting, independent
commission only.
contractors. Right.
Yeah.
But for me, I would just one-on-one relationships, and they'd say, talk to John, he'll tell you how to do it. And what I would do, Brian, I would set up their sites for them. Yep. Instead of saying, here's a manual, here's a site, go check it out. So you know what, give me your zip codes, give me your points of interest, give me a few bullets I can write about you. And until like 5-6 years ago, those websites were still floating around. 14 years ago, I would create free market analysis, call me for school report, blah, blah, blah. I set up their whole website, and it still sat there year after year after year, but it got them business. So they, respected and appreciated me.
That's it. I sold enterprise software forever, and that was my secret weapon. It's like, don't wait for them to do it. Just say, hey, can I come in next Wednesday? I'll do a little prototype for you. And don't leave for a week.
Well, yeah, but that's how they remember me. And then I built a company called Sharp Agent over 11 years, and that's where we really dove into I'm going to sit with you until you know exactly how to use this.
Yeah,
it was created around the idea of simplicity, But you tell an agent there's $100 bill in the parking lot, and you have to do A, B, and C to get it. Give me your name. You got to write down the alphabet, and then you got to do this math problem of 2 + 6. Oh. And then 4 out of 10 go out and get that $100 bill. It's just, no matter what you do, you're never going to get above that, because you also have the folks that really are there for the social part. They're not there for the business. They're not there to provide for their family, And I think that's where the breakdown happens.
That is such a great point, because I think too many salespeople look at, the entire territory. They can sell to everybody. I think the smart ones go, who can I sell to? Who's most likely? Who's going to take those 3 steps versus who's the person in it just to be busy during the day and have coffee with their friends?
Well, yeah, and that's all body language, right? And you're probably pretty good at it. I can pick up those pretty quickly when I go into a 20 agent office. I'm like, yes, well, not a chance. You're sleeping. Good. Okay. It's like,
right. That's it, because, you're not going to change people. You can only, the ones that are thirsty will go to drink the water, right? And find those people, and you'll get to the other ones if you have time, but don't look at everybody as equal.
But that's the problem. Those are the folks, there's the guy and the gal in the back of the room that are very new, and they're probably, under 30 years old. They're trying to figure out their career rather than, I was a stay-at-home dad, stay-at-home mom, and now I'm doing this. Or I was a lawyer, and I'm done with all that stuff. I'm just going to do this, probably 1 or 2 deals a year, and I'll be all set. And those are the folks that bring it down for everybody else. There's brokerages, honestly, that have 10, 15,000 agents, and only 2% are doing anything. And that's an actual, very close to a statistic of a brokerage with 10,000 agents, and about 2% are doing any business.
They call it crisis law.
Well, yeah. How could you be out there as a manager saying, we're having a great time, we have 30 agents and only 2 had it, it's like.
And that's it, because it's the type of business where there's no marginal cost for a new agent. Everything is, the house always wins.
That's true.
They could double the number of agents. Doesn't mean it doubles the revenue. They don't care. It's not like a company where there's a base salary and benefits and all the other overhead that happens.
Exactly. It's the number of the bodies in the seats, warm bodies in the seats. They might do a deal. Come on, you can work with me.
Yeah. And what did you see differentiating you versus the other people in your company as far as sales and selling? What differentiated you?
Well, you might pick up on a little animation. I try to make things fun. I try to make things exciting. I try to make things not scary, because they were very scared with this stuff. And even when I was doing Sharp Agent, it was something new. They were embracing email marketing for the first time. They're like, I don't know if they're going to want that. Yeah. So we got to try. It's about, I think it really is that one-on-one. My wife and I were just watching last night. Oh yeah, I'll admit it. We are survivor people. But the thing about it, there's some really good points that you can pull out of that, watching their behavior, watching what they're doing and this one woman said, look, I am who I am. I made one-on-one relationships with everybody. So now they fear me because everyone likes me. I'll take that any day. If they're fearing me because they like me, I'll sign up for that yesterday. But I think that the value for me was I understood the business pretty quickly. Not that it's really easy to understand, but it's easy to understand the flow and what needs to be done. So I got that right away. I started working with top producers immediately because they were the ones spending money, and I understood the business very quickly. And since I was local, they really know that I could come back and help them. I think that was a big advantage to a website that's everywhere. You can come in right down the road and help me.
Well, what I heard was that you learned how to do it, but then you added your performance, your personality, your style, your uniqueness on top of it.
Yeah.
And you came from a performance profession. Radio is a performance profession. There's no way around it.
The face for radio, of course, as they say.
Well, but you were smart enough to know you worked on your voice, or it's natural. Who knows?
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. But it is a performance.
Indeed. I just had my last position where we realized that John's not selling CRM anymore, and it was kind of an awkward departure, but I really respect them. We both kind of mutual depart because I just can't do it anymore. I don't mind the money, but I feel not, and guilt's probably a strong word, but it's something along the lines of, gosh, how did you just write that check? And then you wrote it again, and then you wrote it again, knowing that 70% aren't doing anything in the system that you're paying for. Yeah. So I'm trying to help them break it down, trying to help vendors realize that API friendly is the way to go, make sure everything somehow can work together. And that's where we're all headed. So it is. As I said before, it's getting so easy to do stuff that we paid so much money for a CRM back in the day. Now I can, between my watch and my phone, I'm 90% there.
Well, that's it. And I think the future of CRM is that the internet is your CRM, and that the CRM sorts through and prioritizes things for you, and reads who you're calling, who you're emailing, and puts it all in there for you, learns about you and what you spend your time on, and sorts it for you, instead of you telling the CRM what you did and hoping you can pull value out of it eventually.
Yeah. Well, it didn't change at all. It's pretty much the same way. But that being said, it's like now I have 4 websites. I have, like you just mentioned, I have my notifications from Facebook, I have notifications from LinkedIn. These are all CRMs feeding into my brain and hopefully being placed somewhere else too. But it's just changing. Real estate used to be changing software-wise every few years. It's changing by the minute.
It is. Yeah.
It's scaring the agents. And I say, guys, just go back and keep doing what you're doing. It's changing big picture very slowly. Yeah. Small picture, do what you did yesterday. You sold a house. Why are you thinking about what Amazon's doing with Realogy? I know that's important to have in the back of your mind, but it really isn't for the next 10 years going to change anything you're doing today.
Right.
So I think it's the helping them push out the noise more. Even back in the day, helping them not worry about it and just move forward and just keep doing what you're doing.
So what's the next chapter in your story?
Kind of what we're doing here today, Brian. Honestly, I've watched you and I
my co-host.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's funny you say that, because I have a leader, mentor, a friend of mine, Brian Wildermuth, who built the company Sharper Agent. I was the first real employee that came in and helped Brian, but I always thought we were a great dog and pony show in the sense that, not that he's not funny too or entertaining, he very, very much is. He actually was in line to be Rusty on Vacation. So the original Vacation movie, he was the last 3 actors that were trying to get that Rusty gig. So he's a great guy, a great mentor. And we've always talked about how we have that tongue in cheek where it's so tight in our industry right now. I think there's a great advantage if we come in on more of the, let's just have some fun. That's what real estate really is. I know it's a very serious, most important decision of a consumer's life, most likely, but you can still have fun. Larry the Cable Guy went to a real estate conference down in North Carolina, and he was the keynote speaker. I was waiting for this. I could not imagine that you're going to have Larry as the keynote speaker. He got up there, he did his get her done. He did all the Larry the Cable Guy stuff. But then at the end, he goes, I bet you all wondering why Larry's here, huh? Because you need a little levity. Yeah, that's why Larry said levity. He said, you need to lighten up, people. You don't smile during the transaction, you won't get a repeat deal. And so he spent 45 minutes with Larry, and then that 2 minutes was gold. And it really was. So I think that's hopefully what I'm going to bring with the next phase of my career.
Yeah, because I think, when you're selling a house, the people who are buying the house, they don't know what they're doing. They don't know how to really do it. They might not know the neighborhood, the town, all of those things. So they have to bond with that other person. And that no one teaches that, right?
It's a natural skill that some have and some don't. It's really weird.
You think you can't learn it, or?
No, I don't. Well, I think that the relationship part is everyone has a different awkwardness about them. Everyone has that. I love quirky. I don't like normal. I like folks that are different. I like folks that try to be different and every day try to be a little different, because just falling into that norm, I don't think that's what we're here for. I'm not
Yeah.
saying I have a special plan. I'm not saying I'm the answer, but I'm connected, Brian, to a lot of weird stuff. The Denver shootings happened when I was with Sharper Agent, and watching my friends in Denver go through this. And then Sandy Hook happened in my hometown. And I was in Denver watching Sandy Hook. I was at a sales meeting out in Denver. They Chipman, are you from Sandy Hook? I said, yeah, why? And here we had the whole Sandy Hook nightmare. So I feel like, I'm being connected to this to somehow make things peaceful.
Yeah.
And we're surrounded by noise and industries. We're certainly surrounded by distractions in world, but we all have this little part that we're playing in this big, huge picture of the world. And I think that we can make a difference, but the difference isn't going to be made by being an angry guy, being a mad guy. It's being kind and friendly.
Oh, yeah.
I know that sounds kumbaya-ish, but not kumbaya.
Well, but it's connecting with another human being. And, being able to listen, being able to relate to them, being able to communicate with them. And, I've only bought a couple of houses in my life. But I knew a realtor, the best realtor, who was a personal friend, not a professional realtor to me. And that person just maximized Facebook, because everyone was on it, would show pictures of these beautiful houses. And not that she thought anyone would be interested, but it was just a way to connect with people. And she would connect with everybody in the community and comment on their kids.
Well, you mentioned before that it's a tough process for the consumer to go through, but you're looking at the world now where my father-in-law just sold his house on his own.
Yeah.
Put the sign in the yard, Sharpie pen with his phone number, calls came in, and within 10 phone calls, he sold it. Yeah. And the realtors were saying 450 and he got 6 something. So it shows that sometimes the realtor just wants to get the deal done. And the good ones know that we'll just hold the relationship. I'll hold your hand till you're ready. And they didn't do that for him. So he said, screw it, I'll just do it on my own. And I think that the consumer today thinks they can do it on their own. But statistics are showing that, go to sold.com, for example, they're getting 100 people coming and asking questions. Only one will end up selling that house themselves, about 1%. And that's a site that's focused on helping the consumer sell it themselves. So yeah, it's not an easy transaction whatsoever. It's very touch and go many a time. So
it's not. And I even consider my own place, and there's probably 5 to 10 unique things about it that if you don't point out, people will think it's equal to the other houses next to me. And so can you tell each of the sales agents that? I mean, right? So I guess you have to have a listing agent communicate this to all the other agents. Otherwise, they're just going, oh, take a look around.
The comps, the perception, whatever.
Right. Well, I mean, because everyone wants to think in comps, but the seller wants to think in differentiators. Because if they put 50, 100K in differentiators into it, that's why it's different than the comps.
Right.
And it's the smart realtor, and that's why the price is higher.
Well, yeah, you're hitting on something that's an issue right now in the industry, the RISO standards. We're trying to find out the real standards across the country, and no one really wants to participate. And it's finally getting to the point that they are, because there's no basements in this state. There's basements in this state. There's some really simple things that really mess up the comps, like a CoreLogic. When these companies go and pull all that data to try to point out things that are going to happen, those holes in the data really make it difficult to get a strong answer. So it's not changed at all. It's the same process of holding the hand of a consumer, getting them through the process, and then making sure you never, ever, ever lose that relationship, because they grow 7 minimum transactions out of one relationship. So they really do have the relationship. Sometimes they don't. We have that stat of 70% being forgotten. I'm not sure if they're always forgotten. I think they're stolen from as well, where you just didn't stay in touch. Brian, I'm sorry. I went ahead and listed with Bob because he sends something every week. He's always in touch. He seems really on top of his game. I had to go that route. And that hurts, because that's the reality of them not being a professional and staying in touch.
That's it, because it is a pure word of mouth business. Because if you were to sell probably not you, because you know tons of realtors, but the mere mortal, if they decided, I want to move, either buy or sell or both, they probably ask their friends, hey, do you know a great realtor? Right? Because I'm sure we know a lot of mediocre or bad realtors, and you don't want to deal with them. They don't understand. It's all about them. They're craving the commission because it's the only way they get paid, and they're qualifying you versus helping you. So it's that type of business.
Yeah, there's a lot that I will say that hasn't changed, but one thing that is changing constantly is the technology being forced down their heads. We have the other side of the VC money coming in, and these new companies that are starting up, whether they're a brokerage or not, they're pretending to be one, they're saying they're not going to be one. So all that, it's just noise. And really, at the end of the day, I would just do everything I could possible as an agent just to stay on track. And I tell them that all the time. I gratefully have these relationships that'll reach out and say, John, what's your opinion on this? And it's getting to the point where I'm proud to be able to offer that, being an unbiased opinion, because look at the vendors in our space or the consultants in our space. They're working on both sides of the deal. They're working for the vendor and they're working for the real estate company. I can't see that way they're all good guys. I'm not saying anything completely negative. My negative thought is, how can you truly be unbiased then if you have two people paying your pocket?
Right. Cool. Hey, this has been a great conversation. Where can people go to connect with you and learn more about you?
The best place would be LinkedIn. LinkedIn.com/in, whatever the whole long URL is. And Facebook, actually, on Facebook, I have Carl with a C, which is my radio character, which I never wanted to be on Facebook. And my wife wanted to be on Facebook so we could share our family stuff. But yeah, certainly LinkedIn is the best bet.
The more I talk to great salespeople, the more I love this mammal-to-mammal selling. If we think we're selling to people, we're working at the wrong level. We've got to understand how mammals think, how mammal brains work. Do your research. Get online. Find out that the conscious mind is about 5% of our brain power. 95% of it is the unconscious mind. That's our reptilian brain, our mammal brain, our monkey brain. We give it demeaning names, but it's just what we are. We've got to admit it and learn how to sell to it and learn why certain approaches don't work. And that's what I do in the Start the Conversation, Get the Meeting course. What I did when I got out on my own is I tried my old approaches, cold calling, cold emailing, kind of pitching. The problem was I had no brand. People didn't know who I was, what I did. And when I did talk to them, that's all they cared about was like, oh, well, who are you? What do you do? How much does it cost? I mean, we didn't get into what they will get out of it. Then I took a step back. I go, first of all, I don't like doing it that way. It wasn't fun. It wasn't rewarding. I go, here I am. I've been successful at every sales job. I'm out on my own now. And why aren't I crushing it? I'm selling my favorite product, me. So why can't I do it? And I took a step back. I go, look, you idiot. Think through. What have you always done? Break it down into tiny little pieces. And then put together a process. And within a year, I had these great conversations with people. I was getting into pretty much every major account I wanted. I was getting referrals, and I was talking to people. People were calling me. People were sharing what they were facing and going up against. Why? Because I took a step back and I remembered the real things that matter in sales, that we were selling to mammals. And until you are known, liked, and trusted, they don't know, like, or trust you. That seems so obvious, but everybody thinks that, you ram through a door with a compelling pitch and you just knock them out and you take the order and you go home. Well, that may work in the movies, but in real world life, it doesn't really work unless you got a big brand and they're already a customer and they already know you and they've been using you, a repeat business. I get that. But if you don't have that, because I don't have that, then it doesn't work. This course will teach you how and then how to build a system. But you're not on your own. This isn't like a course like, I got to go through it on my own. I can't ask questions. I have no one to talk to. We got a LinkedIn group. We've got office hours every other Friday, unlimited one-on-ones with me. A one-on-one is a 30-minute Zoom call, applying the course to getting into real accounts. And I did one recently where somebody wanted to start a conversation with a VP in a Fortune 50 company that he had no context with, no knowledge of. And within a week, we got the conversation going. We got a reply back in 30 minutes. Why? Because you approach people the way they want to be approached. And it's not giving them a gift or bribing them. It is just human nature. And if it's hard, the hardest part people have with the course is getting that mind shift away from acting like a salesperson. See, we are taught how to be a salesperson from other salespeople. And if there's demand, if there's inbound, if people want your product, that's one type of selling. But most of us are hired because we're going into a greenfield account or territory where people don't know us. They don't know what we do, why they need it. There's no conversation or context in place, and you have to initiate that. That's what the course is all about. You can pay all at once or monthly. It's not a membership, though. It is a purchase. So the 12 monthly payments is a payment plan, not a membership. And does it take a year? How long does it take to become good at anything? It takes as long as it takes. You have access to it for a year, and within a year, you can become really good at it. Within a month, you will be getting conversations started in meetings. Within 3 months, you will have a plan to crush your territory with new accounts. Within a year, you can be a master at this, and you'll be able to get a conversation started with pretty much anybody you want because you'll understand how to approach them. And the thing is, what's in our way is our mammal brain. Because guess what? We're thinking about eating. Our mammal brain thinks about today and what we need right now. It doesn't think about what we need a long time. This is why we have Social Security, because our mammal brains can't think that someday we're not going to want to work or can't work and we're still going to need to eat. So the government has to take care of us. And why? People in their 20s, they don't put any money in their 401k because they're like, I'm going to live forever. Look at me, I'm healthy. 30 years later, it's like, oh, my back hurts. Why didn't I save my money? Why did I party every night? Our mammal brains think about right now. And in sales, it's all about thinking in advance. I used this analogy the other day because I just got back from a trip. We're all going on a journey with our clients. Think about your sales cycle. Mine used to be minimum 90 days from the first contact to the first deal. Sometimes 6 months, sometimes 9 months. Now, I would be on that journey with 30 different companies and 60 different people. Now, how do you keep track of that? If you don't have that written down and thought through, it's imagine like you going on 5 trips a day and not planning. Okay, you got to pack. You got to know where you're going. You got to know how to get there. You got to anticipate the things that go wrong. There's traffic. There's roads that are stopped. There's airports that are busy. And a crazy thing on my trip. Okay, I got the first flight out, 6 a.m. flight. Okay, and I was thinking there's going to be nobody there. And I was right. There was nobody there, including the bus, to get from the rent-a-car place to the terminal. Okay, there was like 3 cars on the road, because I'm up at I had to get up at 3 o'clock in the morning to make this flight. You got to pack, got to drive there. Nobody on the roads, made great time. There's nothing in the way. I drop off my car, and there's 100 people waiting for the renter bus and that car bus to get to the terminal. And guess what? There's no other alternative. You can't walk. I guess you could order an Uber, and it all worked out. But my point here is that even when you do make the good plans, things go wrong. And this is what the complex sale is like. We're on this simultaneous journey with 10 to 20 different companies, and most of us are just reacting to what they want, what they say, where they are. We're not guiding them through this journey. And they think they know how to get it done because they know one step. But then when that step either stalls or gets stuck or delayed or deprioritized, they don't know how to handle it. And this is what closing the complex sale does for you, is gives you a map, like on a journey. You need a map. Doesn't mean it's identical to the territory. It just means it represents what you think the territory is at the time. But it's a start. It's better than just say, okay, you go stand in that line, then you go stand in that line, and then you pay over here. And that's okay too, but what if you're in the wrong line? What if that line isn't moving? And being in an airport, you get this all the time. You get, behind a family of 10 trying to go through the security thing with kids running around, nobody putting their shoes here and there. This is what closing the complex sale is all about. Building out that map, anticipating what you typically see going wrong and how to prevent it and how to keep it moving. The complex sale doesn't happen because of these issues. It's never money. Because, and I had this conversation with somebody, it's like everyone tells you it's money. You think it's money. The last thing is it's money. You're selling to a company with billions of dollars in the bank. It can't be money. Everyone's using that as the red herring excuse. There's no reason to do it now. No reason to do it versus the other things. The people who want it done don't have the power to get it done. They don't know why. There's a little bit of resistance here. People want to build consensus versus approval. Now, there's a very big distinction there. Everyone talks about approval, but there's so much consensus today, which is different. They don't need their approval. They want their consensus. Meaning, like, we all know this, especially if you've ever been in a relationship and you go and spend a lot of money without getting consensus. You don't need their approval, or maybe you do. You probably do. But because you have the money in your pocket, you have the credit card, you have the signature. You can go and buy that thing, but you don't want to fight later. You don't want an argument. You don't want, hey, would have been nice if you kind of talked to me about it. You don't have to get my approval, but I'd like to have a vote on it because now it's part of our lives. So today, consensus is critical because there's so many little things. It used to be, so few big things. Today, there's so many medium things, and most of us are selling medium things. So nobody wants to make a mistake, and companies don't change very easily. That's what a lot of people tell me. Once they sell the product, it's getting people to use the product. So that is what we're all about in sales, is keeping that ball moving and understanding how to do it. So that's what that course is all about. I really appreciate you listening. Make sure you're checking out the other two podcasts, Sales Questions and the B2B Revenue Leadership Show, as well as following the company page on LinkedIn, Brutal Truth About Sales and Selling. You can follow me on LinkedIn. I'm running out of connections, so don't get mad if I don't connect with you. I'm like 3,000 behind, and I only have like 50 left to connect with. So I got to clean it up. I know. I'm working on it. Also, check out the YouTube channel, Maverick Method, all one word, on YouTube. All the video representations of the podcast are kept there, as well as all my funny videos. If you're looking for one that you can't find on LinkedIn, it's on YouTube. You can scrape the link there and play it for your next sales meeting. We'll see you next time. Thanks for listening.